Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 285 of the RRBG podcast. This episode is also brought to you by Killcliff. My friends over at Killcliff make the best energy drink you can buy in the market today. Clean energy, none of that crap that they put in Monster or any of those Red Bulls. No sugar, just clean power for all the grind you're going to have to put in today. And if you're not grinding today and you just want to relax, they also have CBD drinks to help you recover from any injuries you may have, any kind of inflammation. Maybe you went a little too hard at the gym. CBD drink will get you right back on track. Go to their website, killcliff.com. Check out all their different flavors. My personal favorite Ignite drink is the Cherry Limeade. And in the CBD category, you have to try the Joe Rogan Special. It's the Flaming Joe Pineapple with Jalapeno. It's not that spicy. You just get a little bit of a kick at the end. It's delicious. Go to killcliff.com and tell them that RRBG sent you. This episode is also brought to you by our good friends at Saints Joints. Go to saintsjoints.com to check out all the options that they have. They have these amazing packages with pre-roll joints, which will have pre-rolls from either side of the strain spectrum, either indica or sativa, and they even have multi-strain collections. Pick up one of their amazing Book of Saints. They currently have 2 volumes, volume 2 being a special Halloween edition. It looks like the Necronomicon. It's amazing. They're currently available in Washington and Oregon and will soon be available in California. Go to saintsjoints.com and tell them that RRBG sent you. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Thunderking Coffee. Thunderking provides organic, air-roasted coffee straight out of Costa Mesa, California. It's seriously some of the best coffee I've ever had. My personal favorite is the Positive Morning Attitude. I order 2 pounds of this almost every 2 weeks because I just can't get enough. But they also have bottled cold brew. They have their special California Christmas peppermint cold brew out right now. You can order it from their website. So go to thunderkingcoffee.com and check it out. Support small, independent businesses, people. In this episode, I'm talking to Lawrence Gowan of Styx. The legendary band put out an album last year called Crash of the Crown, which is fantastic. It's a return to form of Styx. It's back to the keyboards, heavy 70s proggy style. They're currently on the road with REO Speedwagon and Loverboy, which is a tremendous package if you're into the 80s and 70s music. We talked a little bit about being on the road post-pandemic. We talked about writing and recording that album using older techniques and older equipment. We talked about maintaining your health. We talked about vibrations. It was a great conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure to follow Styx and pick up that album. Make sure to follow Lawrence on his social medias. Make sure to click subscribe and follow and enable notifications so you can see when we put new videos up. And if you get a chance, check out patreon.com/RRBG and support the podcast. Cheers.
As you can see, I'm sleeping under a bridge here.
I see. You know, are you in Los Angeles? Because that would make sense. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Everything is so expensive here. My goodness.
Yeah.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the RRBG podcast. I am being joined by Lawrence Gowan of the legendary Styx. How are you today?
I'm very well. You can say Gowan if you want, but Gowan's good.
Gowan? Oh, my bad.
That's okay. The Quebecois pronounce it Gowan. So I thought perhaps, are you in Quebec, Eddie?
I'm not. Regardless of the color scheme behind me, I am not in Canada right now.
That's good. But thank you for the Canadian color scheme. I do like that.
Yeah. So you are currently on the road right now with Styx.
Yes.
You guys are on the road with Loverboy and REO Speedwagon, which is a hell of a bill.
It's a fantastic bill. Yes, we're in Cincinnati tonight. As you can see, I mentioned I'm staying under a bridge. I love the hotel here. Yes, we are into our 8th show of this summer tour. Cincinnati is tonight. Last night we were in Indianapolis, and it has been beyond expectation. I mean, it's been jammed every single night. And as I mentioned to you just before we came on, we couldn't believe it. St. Louis, we had 19,000 people. Last night in Indianapolis, we had 16,000 people.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah, really fantastic. People are just so hungry to bring live music back into their lives, and they're the crowds are incredibly effusive, and just it's a joy to play in front of them.
That's amazing. You know, you guys recently put out a new album that I was listening to yesterday, Crash of the Crown. You know, it came out last year.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, it was hailed as kind of a return to form for you guys, more, keyboard driven, more 70s proggy style.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see that the fans have kind of come back and like there's a huge following that's still going on so many years later. Like, what do you think you can attribute that to? Like the keeping it, if you're keeping it fresh, I would say keeping it fresh, but you're going back to your original kind of style.
Yeah. Do you know what's happened, Eddie, from my own observation here? I mean, classic rock has become the giant musical statement of the last half of the 20th century. You could say that the jazz or swing or whatever style you want to call it, but jazz particular would be the first half of the 20th century. But rock really has established itself historically now as being the monolithic musical statement of the last half of the 20th century, as say rap and hip hop would be for the first start of this millennium. The biggest change in music, and the one that has the longest legs at this point. So I think a lot of people have discovered it now as a form of music that is viable today and has kind of earned its place in historically. And they don't mind if they seem to really be excited if we extend the life of it somewhat. And so with Styx, we have attempted to do that with our most recent two albums, with The Mission and with Crash of the Crown, where we recorded them as faithfully as we could to the recording techniques that were used in the late 70s and early 80s, I guess, while at the same time, being aware that we are a current band that play these giant tours, and we embrace whatever new things we can along the way. But luckily we were there, and we experienced the world prior to the digital age, let's call it that, and we still kind of know which bits of that we have to kind of pull forward with us to make music that still resonates with the past and that pleases people.
Oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so when you say older techniques in the studio, I mean, so you were going all analog, all to tape, or how was it going?
Yes. When we made The Mission in 2017, I'll start with that one. That one came out in 2017. We recorded that as if it was 1979. We used tape machines, and we were all in the studio together in Nashville. Turned off our cell phones, put those away as if they didn't exist. And kind of used that as that human interaction and friction and rejoicing that happens when you hit upon something that sounds like it sounds. And that's why that record, you can put it on next to, we wanted to get the sense that we could put The Mission on next to Grand Illusion or Pieces of Eight or one of those classic albums from the past, and not feel any great jarring shift in the sound, but instead that it's a continuation of that mindset. And so having done that, we wanted to and the success of that record, we wanted to continue that with Crash of the Crown. However, we began that way. Then I don't know if you heard about this, Eddie, but there was this pandemic that happened.
What's that? What happened?
Yeah, it is a sad thing. It's a sad thing. It interrupted the lives of, everyone. And so as a result, what you and I are doing right now, which has become so second nature, I didn't know what a Zoom call was in March, up until March the 10th of 20. In fact, I didn't learn until later when after the pandemic hit, a few weeks later, when someone said, okay, someone from our management office said, we're going to do a Zoom call. I said, well, have a good time with that. I don't know what that is. And soon enough, this became a part of daily life.
Yeah.
on the whole tour, to do about half the interviews are done this way. And anyway, there was another. I should back up a little bit. When we realized that the pandemic was going to extend on, we thought by about the third month, we thought we should listen to where we were on the record. We had almost all the writing done, and we realized this is odd, but the lyrics to these songs, the whole spirit of this record is very relatable to what we're going through right now, and therefore probably what a lot of people are going through. And that felt like, okay, that gives it's incumbent upon us to finish this somehow, even though we can't. I was in Toronto. I couldn't even cross the border, like there was.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, but fortunately in Toronto, I have a studio there with a partner there that we have all the old analog stuff, all the old, I'll go a little bit technical here, but the old Neve studio, board. And a few years ago, I bought an old Studer 24-track machine, which was like the state-of-the-art machine back in the 70s. And a couple of those, actually. We got an old Steinway piano and the B3 and all the clunky, and my Mellotron, which I never thought I'd get a chance to use on a record, because a Mellotron is an instrument you really don't want to move. But we made the record just like you and I are talking right now, where it becomes so second nature. And our studios were linked up through an app called Audio Movers. So in real time, we could listen on the speakers in our studio, and Tommy would be in Nashville, Todd would be in Austin, Texas, and we were linked up in it became so second nature that it felt like we were in the same studio. And as a result, Crash the Crown got finished, and Universal decided, let's hold this until you guys get back on tour again, which was last June. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's really cool. I didn't know they had that app, the Audio Movers. Like I was always curious on how like folks are doing that over the pandemic, because I know a lot of people were working on music over the pandemic, and wow, okay, that's cool. Yeah, because that's one thing that I feel is irreplaceable with music when you're jamming with your friends, like being in the same room and just kind of feeding off of each other, this intangible kind of energy or telekinetic connection that you have. It's weird.
It is weird. It's why people, it's like why a lot of musicians like to jam together, because you can't really predict necessarily where the next note is going to come from, and that spirit of improvising until you finally hit upon something that just resonates to such a degree that you go, let's keep doing that, and let's put lyrics to that, and let's move from there into, oh, remember that thing that we did last week. And it's very quick and very it's the way humans interact, and why for example, although it's been kind of cool to be able to work in isolation because you discover a lot of things, there's nothing like a lot of people are embracing the idea that we can be in the same space again, because these unpredictable little things that happen wouldn't have happened otherwise, and these happy accidents lead to great moments of creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you felt any kind of, I don't know, anxiety or stress, being back on the road after such a crazy couple of years of us being locked up and fearing for our lives, basically, regardless of what side of the argument you're on, like it's still dawned on everyone that like things are rough and weird, and being back on the road is just kind of, I guess if it's a weird adjustment period. But I mean, have you felt that?
Yeah, you do and you don't. Okay, I keep this handy still because my doctor says to. Honestly, I just rely on people that are smarter than me to tell me what to do. And, and as far as the medical field goes, I follow what my doctor tells me to do. And I'm still alive, so he must be doing something right. Either that or I'm lucky. Maybe a bit of both. Quite frankly, we've learned a lot. We don't know enough about yet. We don't really have it completely, figured out. But we do know that in outdoor spaces anyway, we're to a far greater degree, we're safer. Okay. Yeah. I can't quantify the risks, but there's, they're much lessened when we're in an outdoor space. So as a result of that, we have kept some of the venues or even the promoters. They've kept some of those restrictions in place, particularly in the backstage area. We're not allowed to have guests, etc., and everyone backstage has to be, if they're from a local crew. There's little protocols are still being followed along the way. When the show starts, those are the audience is entirely up to them how they wish to go. Sometimes people are masked and some people are not. It's become so kind of it's like second nature now. We don't even. I have to sometimes clock in my head. Oh yeah, there were a few people in the front row that were masked tonight, and most of them were not. And they probably, they've learned to kind of mitigate this to a degree. When the show starts, I think, again, it can't be scientifically proven, but I do have a feeling that there's something really, the vitality and the energy that's created in a rock show. Okay, don't quote me on this, but perhaps it has some sort of, there are healing qualities to it, obviously psychologically, but also just it lifts your spirit to a degree that, I'm not going to recommend it necessarily as the healthiest thing you can do, but it's the greatest form of entertainment I've ever encountered in my life is being at a great rock show. And, I think I think people are smart enough to find ways to keep themselves as safe as they can and still keep their sanity and keep their music in their lives.
Absolutely. I mean, and what you're saying that music has this kind of, healing property. It's true. I mean,
it does.
A lot of it, like you said, it could be psychological. And I'm a big believer in that most of what happens in our lives is directly connected to how well we treat our minds and our mental health in that sense. Mm-hmm. And if you're feeding it, powerful, positive energy from music, then you're going to be a little bit more positive in that sense. And I feel like it's something that should be studied, honestly, because it's that same energy that you guys feel when you're jamming that you can't really explain. Like, what is that in between? And it's the same energy between the musicians and the audience, Absolutely, Eddie. This is a fascinating subject to me. We know now there are a lot of hospitals have musical therapy rooms because they know that there's, we haven't distilled down what it is exactly that's happening, but they know that great examples online. You can see even very elderly people that have extreme Alzheimer's. They put the headphones on. They're suddenly playing a piece that they may have known in their youth. And sometimes they haven't spoken in years and they're suddenly singing all the lyrics to these songs they know so well. It accesses a part of our minds that, that definitely enhances our lives no matter what state we're in. And it is a fascinating subject. If I live long enough, I'd love to get involved in some kind of study of that nature. I've found that music is the one thing that I've seen over the course of my life it doesn't have the capacity to let you down, So there's just nowhere in there that it can really, it can only do you good, and no matter what state of mind you're in, there's a piece of music that will likely find you, or you'll find it, or somehow the two will connect, and the vibration of that, this is getting really cosmic, but there's something to it, will enrich your life. And I've also witnessed over the course of my life that, like, people who have kept music in their lives that are my own age have tended to do so much better than those that they kind of left it behind when they were in high school or whatever. It wasn't part of their daily their daily routine or their daily embracing of life in general. Music kind of became very secondary, but those that have music very vital in their lives tend to do a whole lot better. Yeah. I saw an old study where they put, I believe they put it on like a plate or something. They put sand and they shot different sound frequencies at it, and the sand would create different geometric shapes. Yeah. And that to me was mind blowing.
Well, this is it. I guess, we're the vibration that it creates is just so, we're so connected to it. And we don't quite know how and why, but we are. And we've even found that a few animals in the animal kingdom, I think, respond somewhat to music, but not to the degree, obviously, that humans do. And it might be, that's another level of distinction between us. I do believe that there's, there are some animals that do, but most do not. So there's something in our psyche that is connected to that vibration. And, I'm just using that as an excuse for why my dog never really reacts or gives me any applause when I play the piano with him.
Yeah. I mean, I have seen some rare videos here and there of like people at aquariums with like dolphins, and they're playing guitar and they react to it, you know?
They do, yeah.
That's great. That's it is something I feel the government, I guess, or whoever should really be investing in, because if there's some kind of, there's something there. And you've heard stories of, they're all unprovable stories of how people can use sound to move things. There's that theory that's how they did the pyramids, is through sound. Like, can we just spend some research money and time on that?
Yeah, let's get some government grants going. Come on.
My goodness. So going back a little bit, I wrote it down. We never got to it because we moved into the vibration talk. But
yes, we did. We moved into the ether. Yes.
But going back to the recording of the album, I find it fascinating that some of this older gear is better than the newer gear, like in terms of durability.
Better is that. It's better at making classic rock. I'll go as far as that. It's because that music was kind of forged using those instruments or those methods of production. Okay, that's not to say that people that make records now on laptops, they make a different type of music in general that fits with that genre. So it's really just that. It's almost like, how can I put it? An old timey car has a certain smell. It has a certain sound when you hit the throttle, etc. And it's, if you want that experience, you kind of have to get into a great vintage car and experience it like that. That's not to say that a brand new electric vehicle isn't, it's better for the world. Let's put it that way. It is the world more today, but it doesn't. If you want that experience of what an old, Mustang smells like, and the feeling of what the rumble of the motor is, et cetera, et cetera. If you want that, then you got to get that Mustang.
Yeah. Well, I meant more in the sense of like,
I'm not picking any particular brand.
Yeah, don't burn any sponsorship bridges.
Oh God, no. Oh dear. Careful.
Yeah. No, I meant more in the terms of like durability, because like some of the newer equipment, I feel like just kind of, it'll just crash out of nowhere in the middle of a show. And it's like back then you could just turn it on and that thing's going to work until you destroy it.
You're absolutely right. That's a better way to go at it, quite frankly. There's when something falls apart now, I mean, if this thing, cacks out, it's done. There's really no.
Yeah, you got to call Apple Genius Bar or whatever.
A new one. But at home I have a fantastic old jukebox. It was built in 1946. And it's a mechanical device, the old Wurlitzer, with the lights going around and the bubbler and everything. And I found a wonderful guy that can restore those.
Nice.
And he restored it to perfection. And the beauty of that is that when I put on a 78 RPM record, or let's say, Elvis or the Platters or whoever, I'm actually in a time machine. I'm listening exactly to how they heard it at that period. I'm very fortunate in that regard to have that. But I'm captivated by that, and the durability. I think that's what you're getting at, of these machines that we made back then were far more. They were mechanical devices that made of components that are of certain size in the real world, and now we've delved so deeply into kind of making things so microscopically tiny that if one little thing goes boing, the whole thing goes goodbye.
Yeah. That's my issue with electric cars. Like, I've been thinking about it because gas prices are crazy. So, maybe we can move into that. But at the same time, like, I know how to fix an old car. Like, if a belt pops, or if I need to change the oil or brakes, I can do all that. Yeah. But now with these newer cars, if something breaks, I'm like, well, I guess we'll take it to the dealership. I don't know. I don't know what to do.
In either case, I'm taking it to the dealership. But yeah, you're right. I mean, but at the same time, I'm we've moved on to more practical things that we need to move on to, obviously, but there is something great about that era when those mechanical devices existed, and great music was made during that era, and it survived. The reason you and I are talking is because of that. Yeah. So there was obviously something of lasting value there.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you how you felt when you're doing live shows. There's that stigma when there's a band that's been around for as long as you have and have had the success that you've had, that people just want to hear the hits. You know what I mean? And you're putting out the new music that you're putting all this effort and work into, and people don't care. So
I completely understand that. I understand that entirely because I'm a fan too, and I go to shows and I get the same feeling of like the moment they say here's something new, it's like, oh, this is a good time to take a break and we'll get a drink.
Let's go look at the merch booth.
But it all depends on how the band leans into it, okay, and how palatable they make it in the show. What we have done with these last two records, and I'm really proud of this, is we haven't tried to, we've become very good salesmen. Let's put it that way. And what we do is quite often not even announce that something is new, but have it dovetail in with something that's classic and immediately recognizable. On the current tour, for example, we open up with a song called Fight of Our Lives, which is only about a minute and a half long, but it's a big vocal chorus right off the bat. So you think Styx immediately, because that's, all the voices are together. It's high energy, etc. And before you know it, it's morphed into Blue Collar Man. And I watch the audience every night because I can tell that at first they're wondering, oh, what album is this song from? What's this from? And because it's got a great energy and it grabs them quickly with the way the band kind of explodes on stage. And then by the time they've discerned that this might be something new or it could be from an album that I don't know, we're into Blue Collar Man. And we do that. There's another part towards the end of the show where I have a little piece on Crash the Chronicle, Lost at Sea. And Chuck Panazzo comes on stage and we play that as a little duet that morphs straight into Come Sail Away. So both lyrically and musically, you're kind of putting the audience in the right frame of mind to connect them between the present and the past. And I think that's a clever way that we've done it. And I'd recommend it to you other bands out there that are having such a tough time playing your new stuff.
Yeah. There's some bands that I've seen some bands at festivals where they start the show with their number one single. Yeah. And then by the end of the night, the crowd is so feverish that they play it again. And it's like, twice in one night,
Yeah. Something way back in the 80s when I was in my solo days, I actually early on was guilty of that because you run out of material. I had one very big hit that, we'd play early in the night, and then it was like, let's dust it off and give it another shot. Yeah. But but over the years you learn you become better at how to present a show. And I just happen to be in a band that really knows how to do it,
Yeah.
Cause I'm as entertained as anyone else. When I'm at a Styx show, I'm looking across the stage and loving it.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you how you maintain your vocal health, because you have an incredible voice, and as time progresses, I used to be a vocalist when I was younger,
right?
And my voice, like my range, just keeps going lower and lower over the years, and I'm not really doing things to take care of it. I'm not doing warm up sessions or not prevent. I'm not going to eat chocolate. I'm not going to do these things. Is there anything that you do to maintain your vocal health?
There are little things though. They're really, they might seem very minor, but I think they amass to helping you along. One is, by the way, if your range is, YouTube has become a great school. I sometimes go and look at vocal coaches on there who have great advice as to what to do with your voice. Now, I'll try one little thing this day and that something else next week, and that helps. In general, try to get enough rest. Maybe that's one little thing. Don't abuse myself too much. I I won't have a drink every day. I might have one a week, or something like that, because I know that alcohol can dry you out a little bit. So for some people it can dry you out a lot.
Yeah.
So that the little things like that. And fear is a good one. When you get in front of a big thousands of people, you suddenly go, oh, I'm going to try not to suck too bad here. So you do your warm-ups. And I think, if you spend time doing that and you address it every day, there are ways of keeping things going, with a little bit of glue and string and fear. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Are there any newer bands that go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, newer bands I like. Yes, Tame Impala and Royal Blood. I think they're both two great new bands. Keen, I loved for a while. They're older now.
Yeah.
Bands that have taken the basics of rock and extended them. And I can hear a lineage there where they're tied to Led Zeppelin or Queen or the Beatles or something of that nature. Eddie, I'm really sorry. I have to start the next call right now.
Yeah, no worries.
I really enjoyed talking to you, and hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody that's watching and listening, do you have social media presence for yourself?
Oh, yeah. There's the Facebook and the Instagram and the this and the that. Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. So make sure you follow Lawrence and pick up the new, the latest, not the new, the latest album, and try and catch him on a live show. I'm sure that they're coming around your neighborhood at some point.
You'll have a good time at a Styx show. I can tell you that. For sure.
All right, Lawrence, thank you so much for joining the show. I appreciate you.
My pleasure talking to you, Eddie. All the best. We'll see you somewhere up the road.
All right. Have a good one.
Cheers.